In this video, we're going to show you how to replace the intake gaskets on your Chevy Express 2500. This is going to be located under the intake manifold, accessed from the inside of the vehicle. Let's get started. Using a 17mm socket, we're going to remove the 4 nuts for our seat. And we have 2 more on the back. Here we are at the back of the seat. We have 2 more. Remove all 4 nuts. We're going to remove our seat from the vehicle. Lift it up off of the studs. Slide the cover all the way back around the motor, and we can remove it from the vehicle. We're going to remove our hose off of our intake, pull straight back, put that off to the side. We're going to undo our connectors for our injectors. These green tabs are locks. I'm going to use a small pick up that green lock. And then on the back side we have a small push tab. Push on that tab and remove the connector. This is that tab we're pushing on. There's that green lock that has to be in the unlock state to be able to push it. Go through and do this for all 4. We're going to undo our connector right here. Pick up on the tab, pull straight back. Remove that last connector and fish the harness up and over. This bar right here is the bar that you just snuck your harness out from under. Follow this all the way back and you're going to find your throttle body connector. We have a white lock that's around that. We're going to have to pull that lock straight back, and then there's a tab right on top. Push on that tab, pull straight back and remove that connector. That white bit is your lock and the tab is right in the middle, right there. Get that undone and out of the way. We have a connector right on top of our intake manifold. We're going to push on the tab and we're going to pull straight back. You may need to push slightly forward before you're able to remove it. Now it looks like this plate, this bracket right here, was supposed to have a fastener that goes to this stud. Ours is missing. If you had that, go ahead and remove that nut for that stud. Remove the plastic stay for the harness off the stud. Pull it straight back. We're going to undo the connector for our oil pressure sensor. We have one of those white locks. We're going to pull straight up on that lock right there. And then on this front side we have a tab. We're going to push on that tab and pull straight up. There's your tab. That's our lock. Using an adjustable wrench, I'm going to remove my oil pressure sensor. We're going to remove the connector for our purge valve. There's a tab on this back side where my middle finger is. I'm going to push out on that towards the intake and then push back and remove that connector. We're going to go down the line, removing all of our injector connectors again. These green locks have to pop up and then we push on those tabs. Go down and do this for all 4 of them on this side. We're We're going to remove the plastic hose. There's a tab right here. Push straight back and pick up. When we twist that, it unlocks and allows us to remove the hose. I'm going to pull this over and kind of tie it to the intake since it's going to come off with it. Looking right behind the motor, we have one more of those plastic lines. We're going to push on this white tab and pull straight up. And disconnect the hose from the hard line. I'm going to pull this hose over under the wire harness over to the intake. Pull the harness over to the side, out of the way of your intake manifold. We have 5 bolts to remove for the intake manifold using an 8mm socket. Remove all 5 bolts. Remove all the bolts. Do the same thing on the other side. Right now we're down looking at the throttle body. We're going to use an 8mm socket and we're going to loosen the clamp. Loosen the clamp for the intake to the throttle body. We're going to remove the connector for our mass airflow sensor. Push on the tab and pull straight back. Remove the connector. Using a 10mm socket, remove the 2 bolts for the intake. Ours only has 1. On the right side of your intake, you're going to have this hose. We just have to pop that hose off of the intake. Just push it straight off the side. Remove the intake. We're going to remove the clamp for our fuel line. Pick it straight up, push straight back. It should be connected to the line with a little clamp here. Ours is broken. We're going to use a fuel line disconnect tool to disconnect our fuel line. Get the tool installed, and then we're going to push it straight back towards us. I'm going to use a rag around the fitting so that I don't spill fuel everywhere. Remove the fuel line. I'm going to put my rag around this and leave it off to the side. And we can remove our tool. When you remove this line, there may be some pressure, so be sure you have that rag around there and keep it around there when you pop it off. We're going to remove our intake manifold. Lift straight up and out and remove it. Using a razor blade or a scraper, we're going to go around and we're going to clean our mating surface. When we do this, we want to scrape away from the ports. We don't want to be scraping anything into our motor. Go down the line and scrape all of the mating surfaces. Using a rag with some brake parts cleaner, go around and wipe down the surface. Again, not wiping anything into the motor. And repeat this process for both sides and get the whole valley clean. Do the same thing on the other side. We're going to remove our intake gaskets. To do this, there's 3 tabs. We're going to pop one on the end, one in the middle, and one more on the end, and remove your intake manifold gasket. Do the same thing on the other side. We're going to use a clean rag with some brake parts cleaner. And we're going to go around and we're going to clean where our gaskets are going to sit. When you're doing this, you want to make sure you're not wiping anything into the injector nozzles. We want to get these nice and clean. Go down the line doing for all 4 ports, and then do it on the other side as well. Install the new intake manifold gaskets. Be sure it's on the right side. Be sure it's sitting nice and flat. Do the same thing on the other side. If you have a lot of debris sitting in this valley, it's a good idea to take a vacuum and clean it all out before reinstalling the intake manifold. Ours is nice and clean, so we don't need to do that. Install the intake manifold into place. Install the fuel line. Install the clamp for the fuel line. Your hook goes in the back here, and then it'll clamp down in the front. Install all of the injector connectors. Push down until you hear a click. Close that locking tab. Give them a pull. Make sure they're locked on. Repeat this process for all of the connectors. Install the connector for the purge valve. Push until you hear that click. Give it a pull. Make sure it's locked on. We're going to install all of the bolts for the intake manifold. We have one more bolt all the way behind our purge valve. Install the bolts on the other side. Go around and get all of the bolts installed by hand and just get them snugged down to the top of the intake manifold. Get them finger tight. Go around and do this for all of the bolts. Do the same thing on the other side. We're going to torque our intake manifold bolts. Follow the diagram on screen. This is our first bolt. We're going to torque our bolts on the first pass to 44 inch-pounds. That's bolt 1. Now we'll go to 2, which is on the other side. That's 4. This will be number 5. There's 7. We'll do 8 here on the back right. Do 9 on the back left. And 10 in the back right. We're going to go around torquing our bolts to 89 inch-pounds in that same pattern. Go to bolt 1. And on the left side, number 2. And 3. Do 4 on the right side. and 5. Six on the left. Go back one more for 7. Up on the right rear will be 8. 9 on the left rear. And 10 on the back right. And that's our torque sequence. Pull the harness over and we're going to get that plate installed onto the stud. Pull the harness over. Now if you have a nut for that stud, go ahead and put it on now. Since ours didn't have one, we won't be installing it. Install the connector to the top of the intake manifold. Push until you hear a click. If you don't hear a click, give it a pull. Make sure it's locked on. Install the connector onto the throttle body. Push until you hear a click. If you don't hear a click, give it a pull. Make sure it's locked on. This is pretty easy to get from the outside of the vehicle. We're going to route our harness under the bar. I'm going to start all the way in the back and get my connector installed. Push until you hear a click. If you don't, give it a pull. Make sure it's locked on. And be sure that locking tab is closed. Continue down the line, repeating that process for all 4 injectors. Install the coil connector. Install the rubber hose onto the intake. Install the plastic lines. Push until you hear a click. Make sure they're locked on. Do this for both the lines. Install the harness stay onto the stud. We're going to install our oil pressure sensor. Snug it down until it bottoms out and make sure it's nice and tight. Install the connector. Push until you hear a click. You'll feel it bottom out. Click, give it a pull, make sure it's locked on, and make sure that locking tab is closed. Install the dog box back into the vehicle. Get it up into place. Get all the latches installed for the dog box. Install the seat into the vehicle. Get it seated on all 4 studs. Snug them down. Get the front nuts installed. And snug them down. Install the intake manifold. Get it around that throttle body. Get the hose installed into the side of the intake. Make sure it's fully seated. Push the intake straight down into place, and you'll feel it drop onto those two grommets. Grab the connector for your mass airflow sensor and install it. Push until you hear a click. If you don't hear a click, give it a pull. Make sure it's locked on. Snug down the clamp for the intake. Make sure it's nice and tight. I like to give it a little pull and make sure it's not going to just come off the throttle body. Now that we're done installing our new intake gaskets, we're going to hop in our vehicle and we're going to cycle our key 4 to 5 times just to the on position. This will prime our fuel system and get it ready to start. And you're good to go.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.